Hey everybody, welcome to Blood and Donuts. I am Tony.
And I'm Chris. What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining.
What's up, everybody? Here at the Blood and Donuts podcast, we will start by sharing an overview, facts, and our first impressions. Then we will give you a rating before we go into a scene-by-scene discussion that are full of spoilers, but don't worry. We'll let you know before we hop into that. I'll tell you that I've getting a lot of questions. Where do you get the hat, that beautiful hat that y'all are wearing? And you have stickers on the back of y'all's computers and stuff. There's also t-shirts, stuff like that. If you look in the description of the video or the audio podcast, if you're listening on Spotify or Amazon or Apple Podcast or anywhere you get your podcast, look in the description and there is a place to get that. Also, follow us on Instagram. We want to be your friend. We want to talk to you. So Brooklyn 45 is a 2023 American real-time supernatural thriller film written and directed by Ted Gagon, about a group of military veterans holding an impromptu seance in the parlor of a Brooklyn brownstone at the close of World War II. Gagon penned this screenplay with assistance from his late father, who was a disabled Air Force veteran turned history teacher. This movie was distributed by the production company Shudder.
Nice. Yeah, and real time. So briefly, that is just where it all happens in real time. It's in one night, you know.
Yeah.
An hour and 30 minutes of movie is an hour and 30 minutes of this night, basically.
Yes. And I'm going to be positive on this. So this seemed to me like a play that was filmed. Mm-hmm. You know, and so sure. it was like in one room, one big set piece, and then the camera's just it's just going around. You have these 4 or 5 actors who are like saying their piece. They're going through their storyline, through their lines. They're well developed in that way because they do go and say who they are and what they are, sometimes at great lengths. And anyway, so you are seeing a story, and this is not a conventional horror film that we would usually do. This is so I guess I'm going to praise Gagon in that way. He is not making a run-of-the-mill horror film here. He's trying to do his own thing, and he definitely did that. Whether it succeeds or not, I guess we'll talk about that in the rating a little bit. What are your first impressions, Chris?
You know. And I was looking forward to it. I mean, not everything needs to be Halloween. Not everything needs to be Friday the 13th. You know, you don't have to have that kind of horror movie every time.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the actors. Like you said, some of their monologues ran a little long, but I thought they did a pretty good job. And I did like the small setting. You know, it was like one room and part of a street, and that was it. And I think it was filmed on like a soundstage in Chicago or something like that. I read that somewhere, but very minimalistic approach with the scenery and stuff. And I did like some of the spooky elements with like the candles flickering and things like that. I thought it was going to be like a practical effects kind of thing, but then it went all crazy.
Yeah. So I agree with you. There were some good practical effects. There were some good effects in here. There were some gross scenes in here, which were pretty surprising because it just kind of came out of nowhere, because it did run a little long on the dialogue part for me. I just felt like, in my opinion, they were saying a lot of the same things over and over. I agree with you that these actors,
back and forth.
Open the door. You could open the door. Unlock the door. Unlock it. No, I'm not going to unlock it. Yeah, I was just like a lot of that. But I agree with you. These actors were great. And you got Jeremy Holm, who played Archibald Stanton. You got Larry Fessenden, who is as Lieutenant Colonel Clive Hockstotter, but I guess they just called him Hock in this. Gagon directed We Are Still Here in 2015, and Larry Fessenden was in that. Larry Fessenden has been in a ton of movies, and if you go and look him up on Wikipedia, he is in a ton of movies. Ezra Buzzington was Paul DeFranco. Christina Klebe was Hildegard Bauman, and she was in the Rob Zombie directed Halloween from 2007.
I did see that. And the other lead actress here, Anne Ramsey,
Yes.
playing Marla.
Yes.
She, I knew her from somewhere, right? So during this movie, during one of the parts that dragged, I was like, IMDb, I was like, what did I see her in? And it was like one episode of Dexter. And I remembered her character. I was like, that's where it was. Okay. But you get that stuck in your craw. You got to figure out who they are.
Who is that? I've seen her somewhere. And, so Anne Ramsey played Marla Sheridan in this. And I have a note too, that she played Dr. McCormick in the 1992 horror film sequel, Critters 4. I just like seeing I like to see the horror connection with these actors. You know what I mean? So anyway, it was, I thought that was kind of cool to see, but like you said, I think the actors, they did a great job because it was very monologue heavy. You also mentioned practical effects. They were good. There was a point where, there's a necklace being like kind of like going around, like being stretched out in that kind of way. And I thought that was very well done and creepy. And the ghosts that appear in this, I don't think is that spoiling it too much by saying that. The ghosts that appear in this harken back to maybe the 1980s. I want to say like well lit from the like if you ever went to Disney World and rode the Haunted Mansion and see those well lit ghosts. Maybe Casper. Remember the Casper movie? How the ghost or Ghostbusters? Remember Ghostbusters? Like Slimer.
Yeah, I was going to reference Ghostbusters later.
Yeah, that's what I would say. I would say that's what the special effects harken back to. So I don't hate it, you know. And this is it's called 1945. It's called Brooklyn 45 because of the year 1945. What do you think about that name, Chris?
You know, what is it? Just the city and the year? Like, I don't know. You could have came up with a better name, I think. I mean, we were looking up gifts for this thing earlier, and you just see Brooklyn 99 gifts. You know, there's nothing for Brooklyn 45, but that doesn't really matter. But not sold on the name. They could have done better there.
It's named a little too close to the show Brooklyn Nine-Nine. You got a hit comedy show like that starring Sandberg. I mean, come on. Maybe Brooklyn 45 or 45 is not like, people are going to look at that and I feel like they're going to turn away from it. But this is a Shudder exclusive. I guess Shudder put the money up for this. They produced it and they created this for their channel. So I guess they didn't. I guess the name didn't matter as much. I don't know. I'm here.
I guess not. And they put a lot of stuff out there too. Shudder. I've been contemplating getting a subscription to them because they give these smaller directors, independent filmmakers, a platform. So there are some hidden gems on Shudder, I think. But I wasn't too sold on this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and jump into my rating if you don't mind on that one.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Brooklyn 45 for me, it was, I got a little bored during this. It was an hour and a half long, but it felt much longer than that. I feel like this would have been a really good 20-minute short on YouTube.
Something like a short horror story.
Yeah, like a short horror story, something like that, where some war veterans get together, they have their stories and all this stuff, and then it turns into a seance and some creepy things happen. It felt like a lot of filler with what we said with the monologue, which kind of dragged on, and I got really frustrated in that, and without the effects, without the budget, really, I guess it's on a low budget. So you're just sitting here, and somebody on a website somewhere called it like a chamber piece. Like this is a type of art form or movie or play where it's like where the actors kind of do it with the least amount of props and stuff like that. And I get that, whatever. It's just not my thing. So this is my opinion. So to me, the horror elements, when they are there, are really good. There's some good horror elements, especially at the end. I think there's a very well done payoff And we'll talk about it more in the spoiler scene by scene. There's a good payoff there in the end, and some of those horror elements were good. But that being said, it was a bit drawn out, a little bit thick with the monologue stuff and the story, and again, it's hard. I tip my hat off to him. He wrote this with his dad, who was a veteran and all that stuff. So I love history. My dad was a veteran as well, but this just seemed a little bit too thick for me as far as that goes. I would have liked a little bit more horror elements. That being said, I'm not really going to recommend this to everybody. I think there's better stuff out there, and I think if you pass up on this, you'll be fine. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 13 donuts for Brooklyn 45.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the monologues, some of them are fine, but some of the stuff they're talking about just isn't really pertinent to what's going on in the house.
Yeah.
Especially with the Archibald character, like his past and stuff. And it's like, it doesn't really matter in this house. It's like why we're locked in here kind of thing. So pros for me, actors, we've talked about them. They were great. The initial story is intriguing. I liked some of the dialogue where they're like making fun of Bobo, he's like, it's just Bob, and even later in the film, the jokes out Bob are like the shining part of the movie. I like the minimal scenery with the small prop tricks, candles, radio, that kind of stuff. Cons, very boring, too much indecision, a lot of back and forth, not really scary. And for me, I am going to take offense to that CGI. They don't call me cynical Chris for nothing. This ain't Ghostbusters. This is 2023. Do better. 3 out of 3. An intriguing story 3 out of 13. An intriguing story with great actors is ruined by pacing and horrible CGI. It is not worth the $3 I spent on it.
Yes, I give you that. And again, this is just our opinion. I have seen some.
But we're usually pretty right.
So what I told you is like what we did is we started this podcast in 2023. We're fairly new. What, November was our first episode? No, October.
It was like September.
Was okay, late September. So so when we were trying to pick some movies going for 2024, I came up with, there was a list on Rotten Tomatoes. It was like the top 10 movies of I guess like critically acclaimed movies from Rotten Tomatoes on 2023. And off this list, we got When Evil Lurks. We got Talk to Me. We got Totally Killer. There was some good stuff on that. I don't know what
Infinity Pool.
Infinity Pool. Yeah, there's some good movies from 2023. This one was highly ranked amongst those films.
Number 7.
Yeah, it was highly ranked amongst those things. So we included it, because maybe this was like a hidden gem, not really well, sought after or anything like that. And maybe we were discovering something, but it, for me and for Chris apparently as well, in our opinions, it was not that. So unfortunately, but there was some good things. It wasn't just like, I'm not going to throw the whole thing away. There were some good elements to this. It wasn't awful.
Yeah, I agree with you.
All right, man. Why don't you say we spoil this thing?
Let's do it. So,
right.
yeah, we rented this on, I guess I rented it on Prime. I don't know where you got it from.
I did YouTube.
It was like $3.
I did YouTube.
Yeah, $3 or $4.
Hey,
not really recommended, but
how about this, Chris? I rented it one day for $3.99 on YouTube, and then let that expire before I finished it. So then I had to buy it. I had to buy it again on YouTube, which I guess maybe Prime does it last 2 days with Prime?
Yeah, Prime, you have 30 days to start it, but 48 hours once you do start it.
So I don't know if that's the same with YouTube, but anyway, I went to it and I was like, I had to buy it again. So I screwed that up. I think this is the same thing with YouTube, but maybe I started it on like Tuesday and then tried to finish it on Thursday or something like that, but it was gone. So I was like, no.
You fell asleep, didn't you?
I had to spend more money with this. But anyway, is what it is. All right, here come the spoils. Evening of December 27th, 1945. By the way, December 27th is my mom's birthday. Shout out to Molly. She was born in 61, not 45, though. So let's get that straight. But December 27th, I think that's cool. Okay, on the evening.
Hi, Molly.
Hey, on the evening of December 27th, 1945, military veterans and lifelong friends Marla Sheridan, Archie Stanton, Paul DeFranco gather for cocktails at the Park Slope, New York home of their close friend and commander, Clive Hock. Joining them is it Maria's husband, Bob, a meek Pentagon clerk from the others who they look down on for never having seen battle, but who won Marla's heart for not being as brash and violent as other men.
Yeah, like I first thought when they started talking, and like I thought like all of them had an affair with Marla or something. Like they were all just like, she's our favorite. She's the best woman in the military.
It made me a little uncomfortable for Bob because Marla was just like hugging these. I love you. Oh my God. And he was just like, he would like kind of like not look at Bob and just look right at her and be like, I love you so much and I miss you so much. And I think they like kissed like on the cheek and stuff. Like,
you never know. Bob could be a cuck.
Yeah, he probably is. Like like you said, it was just odd for Bob. You could tell that they didn't respect him, and apparently Marla was like just hardcore interrogator. Like she they spoke about how like she took some dude's finger and took it all the way back to his wrist or something like that. And anyway, she had a cane.
Yeah,
she was hurt in battle.
Happened, or she was hurt at whatever facility she was at, and I think that's where she met Bob.
Yeah. Yes.
And Bob is like a pencil pusher for the Pentagon or something like that, so they don't respect him.
Right. And then you have so Archibald, is that his name? Archie?
Yeah,
Archibald Stanton.
Archie.
So you got Stanton, he's just like a tall, handsome man with a mustache, but you also find out that he's a gay man. So then you see, like, you kind of see why that relationship was like that, why she's able to like sit on his lap and be a little bit more loving towards him and all that stuff. But you also find that he's so Bob is a little uncomfortable with him coming. He goes, Marla, I thought you said he wasn't going to be here because he's getting charged with federal war crimes because he apparently killed a bunch of babies in Germany. He's being charged with this allegedly for killing a bunch of babies in Germany at like a hospital or something, like throwing a bomb in there and just bombing these babies. So he's getting charged with war crimes at the Pentagon, and I guess Bob might be like sort of part of that or whatever. So he's a little uncomfortable with being around this guy.
Yeah, and I couldn't tell who outranked who to start. It seemed like that Paul DeFranco was the outranked
because he was wearing that. He was wearing the jacket. And everything.
He's wearing the jacket, and he just had an authority about him. But it turns out, I guess Hock was the
man calling all the shots.
Outranked him.
Yeah. Anyway, so they're going in, and I do like the camaraderie here. You kind of see like they're sitting here. Well, I did find it funny. They're all drinking like straight scotch. It looked like they weren't mixing, but like every other scene, it was like, wow. They were drinking. And they just so much.
Like I would just be like, I'd chase it with a Sprite Zero in 1945 or something.
At one point, they were like, Hock's already 2 bottles in. Like, what size bottles are we talking here?
Yeah. They didn't seem like airplane bottles.
They were. It was like this brown liquid. Everybody was just killing it. Like, you could hear it. They even made sure the sound.
I was going to put a prop up here, but I didn't for just a glass of bourbon or something.
Oh, okay. Of scotch?
Yeah.
I love that. What was our boy drinking in the thing? What was it? B&J scotch or something? Was it whiskey?
JB's scotch. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. So that's very horror to drink scotch, So there's a little nod there. Hock is mourning the recent suicide of his mentally ill wife, Susan, who killed herself when no one would believe her accusations that her German neighbor was a spy for Hitler. Hock deeply regrets not believing his wife and informs his friends that after losing his faith in organized religion, began studying spiritualism. He now hopes to connect with the other side in a last-ditch attempt to contact his deceased partner, and convinces his friends to take part in a non-impromptu seance. So it took a long time to get there, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, up to this point, even, at the start of the seance, I'm still on board with this movie. I'm still interested. I'm still, the characters are semi-established, and, there's a few little dialogues that are kind of going on, but it's not terrible yet. I'm still intrigued. I'm still wondering what's going to happen.
Right.
I'm excited for the future at this point,
Excited for the future.
Yeah, but it doesn't happen.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't happen for a long time. So I was like, oh, so like you said, one of them is over there in the corner. So so Hock wanted me to come here early, so I've been here all day. He has something that he's going to tell me, and then it seems like 15 minutes passes by, and then Hock goes into another exposition dump, and it's just like exposition dump after exposition dump, which I guess is more noticeable because you're in one room, so the camera is literally going from. So that's why I felt like I was just like, am I watching a play? I feel like they could adapt this to a 45-minute to 1 hour play and put this at a TPAC or something like that. I don't know. It just seemed.
That's a good observation. It seems like it was written for a play.
Yeah, it seemed odd for a movie.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, it just took a minute to get there for the seance. But anyway, so Hock is trying to get all of his friends on board. Obviously, what's his name? He's the
Paul?
It's Paul DeFranco, and he's very he's
against it.
He's against the most pushback comes from him. He's like, this is not it. What are you doing? This is crazy. He doesn't believe. I don't think he believes in the afterlife at all, or he he just seems like a very dark fellow. Like, hey guys, I'm not going to play these games with you.
Yeah, no nonsense.
Yeah, you're starting to act like your mentally ill wife at this point who killed herself.
Yeah. Yeah, and even Marla and Bob are they're at least sympathetic. They're like, we understand that you miss Susie, but this isn't the way.
Yeah. And so you're getting introduced, and it does take 15-20 minutes, like you just said. But finally, when Hock says, I need a favor from y'all. I lost all my faith at one point, and this takes so long to even talk about too, man. He's like, I met a priest, and the priest did this. And then at one point the priest told him, your wife is probably not in heaven because she killed herself, which I don't.
And that's when he lost the faith of the Catholic religion or whatever. He was done with the religion.
Yeah, he doesn't believe in religion. But by the way, I'm a Christian. I've read the Bible. I don't know where it says anywhere that if you kill yourself, you automatically don't go to heaven. So I don't know where they get that. But anyway, so I just wanted to say that. But at this point, he's just like, I want to call out to her. I want to see her. I want to see some kind of proof that she's still there. Will y'all do this seance with me? Which at this time, you're sitting there as a horror fan. You're like, here we go. Finally, and it took so long to get there, and there just wasn't a big enough payoff during this seance. It was good, it was okay.
No, was it?
I mean, again, like you said, I like the candles. We're about to talk about it in a minute. I like the candles lighting. I like the necklace, getting pointed around. I thought something was going to happen each time it pointed at somebody in particular, but it didn't. And then there was this awful hand that came from the table. We'll talk about it. Let me go on to the next one.
Yeah, that's coming.
Hock is mourning the recent suicide of his mentally ill wife, Susan. We just talked about that. The seance proves successful. Candles lighting themselves, a closet door banging, and the appearance of Susan's ectoplasmic arm at the parlor's radio spontaneously blasts Louis Jordan's "Is You Is or Is You Ain't My Baby." Hock, desperate to touch her, lets go of his friend's hands and reaches for his Susan's arm, breaking the circle and sending her ghost back into the table, humbled and overwhelmed by the realization that there is really an afterlife and that he could one day reunite with his wife. Hock pulls out a pistol from under the table and fatally shoots himself in the head. He like puts it in his mouth and just fatally shoots himself.
Yeah, I could kind of tell when he was like, "Yeah, I'm done," or he was saying something like he's checking out, or he's done, or he's at peace or something. Yeah, I was like, okay, he's about to go.
Yeah.
And let's talk about before they started holding hands. Let's talk about how it took about 5 to 7 minutes for them to hold hands.
Man,
that's how long it drags.
Yeah, it really does. And it's like, so
if there's like indecision. There's like,
there's still so much more convincing at the table, and you're just like, dude, like obviously you're here with your friends. There's nothing else to talk about. Just do it. This is a movie. Let's get the thing going, you know? And he's like, at no point should you ever let go of anybody's hand, because it's going to leave the spirit in limbo. Is that right? Something like that?
It's going to close the portal. Yeah. And either leave them outside or inside or whatever.
Got to make sure you close the portal.
Yeah, and the whole time they're holding hands, there's about 10 times where it's like, don't let go. Like you would think at this point somebody's going to let go and go check out what that banging is, or go check out why the radio's messed up or something.
Yeah.
But the whole time Hawk's just like, don't let go. I'm like, oh my God, dude.
Yeah.
So that was like a 15-minute seance.
Yeah, it was. And like, so you're getting the first horror elements, and again, it's not a big payoff. You're getting candles lit, a few things happen, a necklace. He has one of her effects, her necklace. Is that what it was? Was that like her necklace? No, is a handkerchief,
a bloody handkerchief. Yeah,
yeah, and he put that in the middle and stuff. And I don't know. There's a couple rules which didn't, like, usually in a horror film when you mention rules, they really have a big payoff with them attached. This stuff kind of didn't. I don't know. Just kind of thrown in there. Just a lot of stuff in there that you didn't need.
Why didn't they just do the talk to me method?
Man,
get her in there for 60 seconds, blow out the candle.
Golly.
Bang, boom.
Maybe that's what's wrong. If you if you ever seen like Talk to Me and like and where you can like talk to the dead people and using that hand and stuff, that's a horror film. That's a good horror film about this type of stuff. You talking about being like creeped out and stuff. I could barely sleep that night. I mean, I was like creeped out. I thought there was somebody in the corner of my dark room. Man, that was nuts. But anyway, he pulls a gun out and just shoots himself. He has a really cool hole in the back of his head, though. I like that effect.
Yeah.
It is cranium. And his friend has like fingers. Doesn't he? He just like has his friend like he's like, is he in shock? Or he's just like,
I think he is. And he's fingering that head wound.
He's just like really fingering that head wound. Like he's like, man, this reminds me of the battlefield.
You there.
Fingering that stomach wound. That's a Almost Heroes reference, which we try.
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute since we had one of those, but it's a great film. Chris Farley's last, I believe. Actually, Chris Farley's last film, Chris, Dirty Work.
Mm-hmm. No, is it really?
Yeah. I read that somewhere.
That's sad.
How awesome was that, though?
That was such a good movie. Dirty Work is fantastic.
Yeah.
Let's go watch that after this.
R.I.P. Chris Farley and Norm Macdonald just passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, at that moment, the closet door bursts open and a woman, Christina Klebe, falls from it. Bound, she's gagged. She breaks free from her restraints, revealing that she is Hock's German neighbor. And not to mention the fact, Chris, that she's a kraut. Is that a racist term? Because they throw it out there like whatever. I've never heard it in my entire life.
Google that.
Like, listen here, you kraut. You're just a kraut. Like, if I'm seriously, I have no idea if that's racist or if it's offensive to German people, but I don't know. I do like sauerkraut.
Kraut is a German word recorded in English from 1918 onwards as an ethnic slur for a German, particularly a German soldier in World War I and II.
You know what? They deserve it then. Krauts. Yeah. Freaking krauts.
Should be fun.
Okay.
We don't have any listeners in Germany on Spotify, so we're probably fine.
That's done and over with, man. After that, he drugged
War's over.
He kidnapped her that night before she tried to open the locked parlor door, but Paul insists that the group confirm if she is a Nazi spy before anyone leaves. The group bickers repeatedly, changing allegiances as they attempt to uncover the truth about the stranger. In the process, Archie reveals that he actually did commit the war crime that the media is blaming him for, while Marla interrogates Hildy using a torturous method, revealing her own hidden brutality to her husband.
Yeah, that's a lot to unpack, but the main thing is that they go back and forth repeatedly. That's really all that this whole portion is. It's such a back and forth. It's like at one point Paul has the gun, and then he switches it with Archie, and then Archie has the gun, and then all of a sudden they're bickering, and they're going back and forth on, well, you could have killed the crowd, and he's like, no, I'm not going to kill her. And it's like 5 seconds ago you were.
Yeah, he kind of like changes his mind about the whole thing because the Kraut, the German lady's so like
boring.
It's really boring. I hate even talking about it, but anyway, she's like, I don't think you're a bad man. You were doing what you thought was right for your country by killing all those babies in that hospital. So I don't think you're a bad man. And he was like, she doesn't think I'm a bad man. I don't think she's a Nazi. She's the right thing. And then of course the Ezra over here, what's his name? Is it
Paul?
Yeah, sure. And so like he's like Paul. Yeah, he's like really dead set. He's like, no, Hock he called me here. He wanted me to kill her. He knows that she was a Nazi and I'm gonna kill her. And then, so Marla's like, I will interrogate her. And she like sits her down. She's like, I don't think you're a Nazi, but I'm going to do this for my friend over here. So she like sticks a toothpick in her finger. And she's like, see, she's not a Nazi. I stuck a toothpick in her finger. And she said that,
right.
You know what I mean? Like what the hell
That's
are you
my hardcore interrogation. I put a toothpick at the tip of their finger.
Like, listen, if you get up or you squirm, it means you really are a Nazi, and we will shoot you and blow your brains out. So,
well, and I think Hildy messed up too because she said you were just doing as you were commanded, like we all do. And then that's when Paul was like, "Oh, see, who's your commander?
She is a Nazi." I don't know. The war was over at this point, so it was all like I was just like, "Just open the door. What are y'all doing? Who cares?"
And why did they keep saying the war's over? Says who or what was it?
Again, I have no idea. The war,
who?
The war was
that like 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. I guess because it's like right at the end, and there's still like a question: are we going to go after these Nazis? There was a lot of them here in America. They were working on like the nuclear program. They were in South Africa. They were a lot of places, like high-ranking Nazi officials, and it was like there's a big question, like, should we go after these people and punish them for war crimes, or is it over with since Hitler is dead? I don't know. So I guess there was a big question in those following years, and I guess that's what they are. They're haunted by those ghosts as well, Chris.
No, I see. So this totally makes sense. Can I change my rating?
This is a haunting not just of ghosts, but of ghosts of war as well, as you'll see when he opens this door here in a minute. Upon discovering that they are trapped supernaturally in the room, Marla decides that the only way to leave is by finishing this seance. Hock's corpse, now possessed by his own angry spirit, demands that they kill Hildegard before he will let them leave. The seance conjures the full ghost of Susan into the parlor, who accuses Hildy of killing her and staging it to look like a suicide. Archie panics and attempts to leave, only to find that the parlor doors lead to his own personal hell, the charred remains of the German kindergarten that he is being tried for by destroying and murdering.
Well, I did not notice that. Maybe I was looking up that actress and what she played in. But I was actually excited to get like more paranormal, but then I remembered that it was like crap graphics, and I was like, oh, never mind.
Yeah, so it didn't really show children. So what he was like, he's like, heaven or hell, just give it to me. I just want out of this place. And then he opened the door, and it was war. You hear the gunshots and stuff, and you did see charred remains. And then he falls on his knees and cries. So you just kind of assume like, oh, okay, so these are the kids that he murdered. But at this point, he's like starting to you know what, Hock gave me the orders to do that, because Hildy kind of put it in his mind. She's like, you're not a bad man. You were just doing what you ordered to do. And then we find out that Hock was not a murderer. He was a murderer. He was sadistic, but he could not murder people. He would get physically ill, and he couldn't do it himself.
Yeah.
So everybody was thinking, he called me here to kill this Nazi who killed my wife because I can't murder her personally because I physically can't do it. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, so he's never killed anybody.
Yeah, which is the dumbest.
He knew that this Nazi needed to die if she was a Nazi.
It was the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. But anyway, so this guy who killed all these kindergarten children over there in Germany, he was called to do the duty that was put upon him by Hock, who he would like do whatever Hock told him to, anyway, it was just weird, you know. And at this point, he's like, I'm not killing ever again. You know, I'm done with this. I'm not
myself in.
I'm not a bad man. He kept saying, I'm not a bad man. I'm a good man. That's what Hildy told me. Hock sits up, screaming at the group to kill Hildy, and becoming so enraged that he begins slamming his face against the table, violently breaking his jaw from his face. I'm gonna stop there. This scene's probably the most horror film of the scene. The most horror part of this scene of this movie. Sorry, this is the most horror scene from this movie.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It obviously reminded me of the Riley head smashing from Talk to Me.
Yes,
pretty good effects. Looked pretty good.
But Honk's face after he was done, it was smashed in. He hit it like 20 times, and they just showed him there. He had like 4 teeth left. And like half his. He just looked like very smashed in. It was just like sitting there. I don't know. It was a good effect. I like that. I like a good practical effect like that. And so Hock he's like, you got to kill her. And, you know, as a dead person, you know, he's already blown his brain out. And he just starts slamming his freaking head into the table. And it's gross. It's hard to look at. So this is a really cool effect in that regard. And then Bob, who is the Pentagon pencil pusher, he's coming to the possession of Hock's pistol. He fires it twice at Paul after being threatened, first blowing off 2 of his fingers. He goes, Paul, you're not going to come. You're not going to kill her. You're not going to do anything. You're not going to come near her. And so he blows off Paul's fingers. A relieved Hildy goes to thank Bob when he turns and fires a single shot into her face. And obviously he kills Paul as well. At this point, Paul runs towards him. I'm gonna kill you, and he lunges towards him after he blows off his finger, and he puts one right into Paul's face. And then this is a very odd scene. Hildy comes to thank Bob when Bob just turns and fires a single shot into her face, killing her as well. Which, if you were in the movie theater watching this, you would probably get up and just applaud at Bob killing her. Finally, you would just go, yeah, because I can go home now, because this is what we've been waiting for the entire movie. Bob panicking. Bob drops this gun, claiming that he had to do it. He had to kill this woman regardless of her actual guilt, lest they never would be allowed to leave the room.
Yeah, and Marla seemed really mad at Bobo there. Either way, though, I don't know if she's mad because he shot Paul, or because he shot Hildy. But it's a weird take, because Paul was about to attack him, and he had to kill Hildy to leave the place, because it was supernaturally they were locked in this room. The key melted into the door, so there's no getting out unless you do this task.
Yeah.
So why was she mad? I don't understand.
Yeah, so I think let's go back to the beginning where like nobody liked Bob. Nobody liked him whatsoever, but she liked him. Why? Because he wasn't a killer. She liked him because he didn't have that same mentality that all of her friends have, and maybe that she even had. So he was like he was like a safe haven for her. He was this is me just speaking out of my butt. He was a safe haven for her. He was different than what her friends were and stuff like that, because like we said, you would have thought that she would have ended up with one of these guys. But she ended up with Bob. Why? Because she wanted to, away from all of that. She didn't want to be a part of that anymore. And so it like kind of pissed her off. Like she's like, oh man, so you are deep down one of these dudes. You're just like us. So it kind of like that's how I took it. She was just like, she still rode home with him. She's still married to him. She's still going to have sex with him tonight, but she's still a little bit like, man, Bob.
I thought I had a non-killer.
Yeah.
She could have just got with Hock. He didn't kill either.
Yeah. Hock was married to Susan. Anyway.
No, not anymore.
With Hock's demands fulfilled, the parlor doors open wide. Bob, Marla, and Archie leave the apartment, where Archie informs them that he is going to turn himself in tomorrow for what he's done. Archie then asks Bob, who has been deeply critical of Archie's actions, if he's also going to answer for his crime. Marla and Bob get into their car, but they are overwhelmed by what has happened, and they just sit in silence, eventually breaking down and sobbing.
Yeah, and here they repeat, the war's over, says who. Like I said, we've already talked about that, but I wrote a note to talk about it one more time.
Yeah.
Probably has some deep meaning, but this movie's too boring to care. So
yeah, again, when Hock is burying his face into the table, I'm loving it. When Hildy's getting shot, when there's action going on, I'm loving all of this. If they would have rushed through the dialogue a little bit more, if I just would have got a little bit more like exposition dump really quick, and then we would have moved, and maybe about of this hour and a half movie, if there was like 30, maybe 20 to 30 minutes more of just something happening, action happening, maybe ghost, maybe spooky things, maybe something dark in the corner, maybe the lights go out and then you see some creepy eyes, some creepy form in the corner, maybe some more spooky things. Like, let's make this a horror film. But again, you wrote this with your dad, who was a vet, and I understand you want to put a lot of World War II in there, and that's exactly what you did. And I commend you. You made the movie that you wanted to, and this is just our opinion. Anyway, do you have any final thoughts on this, Chris?
I don't. I mean, just like I said, I think it did have a great cast. It's just the pacing was horrible. The scenery and stuff was good. Like you said, they did put a lot of World War stuff in there. I mean, there was like flags and old pictures, and I'm sure some of those probably maybe was his dad's, memorabilia from that era. Yeah. So he probably got to show a lot of that off in the movie, but just wasn't our cup of tea for a horror film.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anyway, we'll see you next time, man.